Welcome to the breakdown, brought to you by Paintball Access in association with Paintball Nation. Wow, it has been an insane 2014 season. So today we would like to honor the best killers of the year. So we're going to start with the G rating. I'm Matty Marshall alongside Todd Martinez and San Diego Dynasty's Ryan Greenspan. And Ryan, you did crack the top 10 here in the G rating. So let's break them down. Number one, the best player of the year by far was Archie Montemayor from San Antonio X Factor. Not only did he win the Top Gun title by far, but he was the only guy with higher than a .88 G rating, which basically G rating, how that breaks down is that's how many kills do you average per point that you play. Now, Archie Montemayor, he averaged a little bit over a point kill per point that he played. He had 140 kills in 136 points, Todd. That is ridiculous performance from Archie Montemayor.
Yeah, I mean, he just had a stellar year, you know, from top to bottom. I mean, just best player in his team, best player in the league this year. You know, he came out and he was just dominant. And, you know, you get to be this player because you go out and every point that your team's out there winning, you're shooting people and finishing games. And every time you're out there and your team's losing, you're pulling the games back, helping your team win those low body situations when you're down 4-on-3, 4-on-2. You shoot people, bring it back. That's how you get to be the #1 player in the league.
And Todd and Ryan, also, I really think that that's why Archie shined this year, because X Factor, they won the World Cup in 2013. They were the defending world champs. They came in. They had some come from behind victories. They played a lot of games that were on the brink, and Archie was that guy still alive, still chalking up bodies when in low body situations. That really helped his G rating and, you know, helped his WINFLUENCE, all the different metrics that go into the Top Gun. Right now we're talking about just pure killers, just G rating and overall kills. That's what we're talking about here on this episode of the breakdown. The Top Gun title, that's going to be a whole nother episode, which we will also talk about Archie in that one as well, because he is the Top Gun title holder. But, you know, Ryan, you play the same spot that he plays. You play Archie's spot. You play that really tough to play, that that second attacker. You know, you have the ones, the twos, and the threes. The ones are the first attackers. The twos are the second attacker. That's the hardest spot to play in paintball. Three's that back guy. You typically see them in the back center or, you know, out on the wires holding it down, and they're the master gunfighters. Ryan, you've played all those spots. You can play all those spots. How hard is it to play that role?
You know, it's extremely tough. The biggest thing is you need to know how to play everybody else's spots, and like you touched on.
Because you never know where you're going to be.
And not only that, but yeah, you never know where you're going to be, because, you know, if the plans all go accordingly and it's plan A, it's no problem.
Which almost never happens.
Yeah, never happens. Yeah. Especially in a team like X Factor, you know, they're constantly improvising, and so Archie has to constantly create some new opportunities for himself and for the team. So going back to saying, like, you know, it's a tough position, because he's got to know what the game plan is, and he's got to know exactly what everybody's going to do before the game starts. And oftentimes you'll have your #1s on the outside. They're just like, where am I going, the snake or the Dorito? Okay. But at the end of the day, what you need to know is you need to know how to play that guy's number one. You need to know exactly what he's going to do and the route he's going to take to get to his spot. Okay. Also, as far as you're getting a lot of information from the sidelines and communicating a lot of information. But especially like we said, on a team like X Factor, where there's so many different variables on how the game's going to unfold. Archie didn't even know what was going to happen, and obviously. You want your team to succeed as much as possible, and plan A is always the best plan, but you always have to have a contingent for if things go badly. You need to be able to bring it back.
But that's tough though, because you have to play that audible.
Right.
You don't know what's going to happen, and you have to be ready for that mentally. But Archie has played this game for so long at such a high level. It's just really cool to see him start to take home the honors for that, and really kind of get some recognition for the player that he is and the spot that he's played for many years. I mean, he did play on, he did come to Dynasty for a little bit,
Yeah, and back then it wasn't, he was a little shy with kind of the team, you're a new guy. So he wasn't really ready at that point to be like, this is where I want to play, this is where you guys need
Yeah, but
me.
maybe that was a catalyst for him to go
good,
back to X Factor and be like, okay, I'm gonna assert my dominance on the field though, not necessarily in other ways. But
Archie's always been a great player, and that's one of the reasons we picked him up back then. And I think that he was a better fit with his guys, obviously. But Archie on this year especially, not only was he playing he has 136 points. That's a lot of points to play. He plays nearly every point on that team.
And they did play down in the Challengers Division, so that's only through 4 events.
So you added a whole another event on there. And then to top it off, his skills got a lot sharper, because I'm watching him. I'm playing against him both in the U.S. and in Europe, So he has a really smooth style of play in there, but with his snap shooting and his quickness, added onto there, he can play the number one, or he can play wherever he needs to be.
So let's move on to the second player ranked overall as far as G rating is concerned with a .88 G rating. It's Franck Chambon from Moscow Red Legion, is actually a French player. And that was kind of one of the cool stories from Moscow Red Legion, as they picked up a bunch of these French superstars, and that really kind of solidified their lineup to keep them competitive this season in the PSP. It did pay dividends for them. They were one of those teams that did get better and better and better as the year progressed. Yes, at the World Cup, they did have to play in a relegation game, but they won that game, so they will be in the Champions Division next season. But he's one of those guys, one of those core French guys that came over to solidify that lineup. And even though he didn't get a ton of spins, because Moscow Red Legion was another team that went back and forth and they had a ton of guys, the spins that he did get, he put up some numbers as far as kills were concerned.
Hey, if you're going to be a top player in this league, you got to be consistent. And that's the thing that all the French players that Moscow Red Legion picked up, they were all really consistent, from Chambon to Colombo,
Loic Vallot.
Vallot, and especially Kevin Kuhlum. Those guys, they're really efficient players for Moscow Red Legion, and that's why you see Franck Chambon in the number 2 spot.
All right, so let's head on to number 3. Another guy that didn't get a ton of spins but made it count when it mattered was Nicky Cuba. Nicky Cuba, legendary paintball player. It's kind of also sad that we have to speak about this, but Nicky has severe knee injuries in both of his knees. He I believe it's an MCL tear in one knee and a PCL tear in the other. So he's got some issues with his knees. May or may not return for next season. He's been playing this game at a high level for about 15 years now, and it was great to see him, do his damage when he needed to in limited action with Infamous. They won the first event in the Champions Division, and then they spent, kind of a tough middle section of the season down in the Challengers Division. Didn't have the performances that they wanted to, so didn't even get stats on them during those performances, and then they did finally solidify their chance, but he didn't even play World Cup because of those knee injuries. So our thoughts out to Nicky Cuba, but the legend Nicky Cuba was able to rank 3rd in the G rating overall. So let's head on to the number 4th guy, which is a guy that we have talked about consistently for the past 3 years. I mean, he's been a top player for a long time, one of the best in the business, Marcelo Margott. Todd.
Yeah, Marcelo Margott, he led the Ironman this year, top 3 team in the PSP this season. Come out and got 153 kills and 179 points. Never played for relegation. Always finished super high. Led a team of young and upcoming pros to a top 3 finish this year, and was definitely the standout leader from his team. You got to give it to Marcelo Margott. Over the years, like we saw him finish 2nd the past 2 years in this overall rating.
Third year now in a row.
You know, third year in a row that he's up there in the top amongst the league, and you know, you got to give it to him this year for, you know, shouldering more of the leadership burden of, you know, the LA Ironmen this year and taking them to the top and still consistently playing at a high level.
And Ryan, you know how hard this is to be a leader on a team, to be the guy that everyone's looking at as one of the top guys, to constantly have to go out there and consistently perform at a high level. It's an incredibly difficult task.
Yeah, sure.
And so to have him now do this for 3 years in a row, I mean, obviously Marcel's been a top player for a long time. He came up as a teenager, won some world championships with the Ironman, but hadn't really found his, you know, adult form yet. He was still a kid. But now in the past couple seasons, I think he's really reformed his mental attitude. I think it came down to, you know, he's blown out his knee twice. He's had 2 ACL reconstructive surgeries now. So he knows that at any time whatsoever, it could be his last day playing the game. He plays like that. He really plays like it's his last day out there every time. He expects greatness, and he's really had a good year.
Yeah, I mean, he's a really passionate player, and you know, second place overall in the overall rating, and in just cracking the top 5 on the G rating year after year after year, you know, is a huge accomplishment to anybody. And I know that the type of player he is and the type of personality he has, that he's gonna use this as a little bit of fuel to a fire, and he's gonna strive to be #1. And why shouldn't you? You know, but I'm sure he beats himself up a little bit saying, man, it's second place again, which most of us, you know, the other, you know, couple hundred of us will probably be like, man, that'd be tight if I got second place.
Yeah. Well, even the guys in the top though.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
there's only maybe 20 guys on planet Earth that really are kind of consistently up in that top. You're one of those guys.
Right.
You know, so I mean, to be that second place, it's pretty admirable. But he does beat himself up over that.
No, absolutely. You know, and that's a great attribute to have, you know, and that's the same thing with Archie, as you discussed it with him a little bit when they got relegated, you know, for that one event. He said, how is this going to hurt my position in the world? Because I need to play better in order to overcome it.
Yeah, because he was looking at like, well, is this going to set me back? And I was like, no, you put such a big lead on the rest of the field that it might actually help you. And he was like, well, I want to further my lead.
Yeah.
You know, which is the right attitude to have with that sort of thing.
You know?
Yeah. You know, so and then talk about a great attitude and just, you know, generally the consummate pro who's been doing this for so long. You know, Todd, you had brought this up when we were, you know, calling the last game when Archaeos put a whooping on Tampa Bay Damage to win the World Cup this year, even though Archaeos is no longer a team. So we still don't really know exactly who Konstantin Fedorov is going to be playing with in 2015. But Konstantin Fedorov actually tied at 0.85 with on the G rating with Marcelo Margott for 4th place.
Yeah, I mean, Konstantin Fedorov to me is, you know, the most dynamic player in the league. He plays every single spot. He had over 200 kills last season. This season he gets 126 kills and played 2 events. Basically, he got 126 kills in 3 events. You know, so if you look at a guy that played 2 events in the Challengers division and still managed to get 126 kills, I mean, this guy's ridiculous. He's played in 10 out of the last 11 World Cup finals. And if that's not a testament to his greatness, I don't know what is. You know, a guy like him being able to come out here with a 0.85 G rating behind, you know, some stellar players in this league. You know, he won 2 events this year. When he was with Houston Heat, they won 4 out of 10 events that they played in. And, you know, didn't even get a shot to play in 2 of the events this year. But, I mean, Konstantin Fedorov year after year after year is, you know, the one of the funnest players to watch in the game, the most dynamic, easily the most versatile amongst, you know, a handful of guys. And, you know, there's no surprise that he's sitting up here in the upper echelon of statistical leaders in this league.
Even though it was a little bit of a surprise that they only played 3 events, and he was still able to put those kills on the board.
That's insane.
Well, I was going to say, Ryan, you've played against him now for well over a decade. What do you think it is that makes Fedorov so special?
I don't know. I mean, it helps on his squad. You know, that
he is always playing with really good players.
Yeah, he's always playing with great players. You know, so it's hard to key up on any specific guy. But on top of that, you know, he's definitely a difference maker on any team. But you're looking at a guy also who's playing almost every point. And so not only do you have the ability to play all those points and get all those spins, you know, just like if you look at Archie plays almost every point for his team too, as long as he has the energy. And Konstantin's the exact same way. And not only that, but to have your coach have that type of confidence in you, you know, is another little bit of a boost. You know, Todd, from coaching, it's like when you go out there and you're like, hey, I want you, you're playing again. You know, when you call that same lineup, those guys are like, yes. Not only are the guys that just did so well stoked and they're going to play a little better, but the rest of your team's like, yeah. You know, like, let's do it. They're backing you up. You're like, get back in there, you know? So not only for him to be able to carry a team like the way he has over the past, you know, half decade or more, you know, the players around him and his own team, his coaches and everything, his staff, all have such confidence in him that's a little bit of a boost there, you know, especially in the paintball world.
Hey, to that point, that's the reason why my man Matt SOSSOMAN is sitting at number 5.
There you go.
Know?
Yeah, so talk to me about Matt SOSSOMAN. I mean, you were his coach this year. He's at 5th. I mean, he had a .83 G rating. He had 102 kills, 123 points. He didn't even get to play as much as because he's a back guy. And he's, you know, if you look at this, there's the guy right behind him, which we'll talk about in a second, is also a guy that plays his spot. But you don't see a lot of those guys in these positions. So talk to me about Matt SOSSOMAN.
Well, this is what I'll say about Matt SOSSOMAN. Matt SOSSOMAN, he's one of those guys, to Ryan's point, that you put him in, he shoots a guy, he does his job, and then if you lose a bunch of bodies, he fights and gets you back in the game. You know, that's something that you say about guys like Archie, Nicky, Marcello, Oliver, who was our 2013 Top Gun title holder, and Alexander Biernikov, who was our 2012 title holder.
Yep.
All those things that those guys do, Matt SOSSOMAN did for our team this year. You know, every time I put him in there, he'd shoot a guy, do his job, bring the game back, or close a game out. That's what you want out of your guy. You could not take him off the field. And the rest of the team saw that as well. You know, I saw that, and it just kept putting him back out there, and he just kept doing his job over and over and over again. Never came back in and was like, hey, I'm the man. You know, never had an ego, was never like, hey, he was never a problem. You know, he was a great teammate. Every time you got a chance to work with him, you know, he was very intuitive about the game and what was going on, and just had a great mind, but never got high, never got low, was never like, oh my gosh, you know, freaking out, or was like, oh my gosh, we're losing, you know, like none of that ever fazed him. You know, you got to appreciate those guys that can come in and just be consistent, you know, be great teammates. And that's what his stats show. You know, he came in and was just like, hey, I shot that guy. Okay, cool, go shoot him again. Comes back in, hey, I shot that dude again. Not like, hey, I shot that dude. You know, pat me on the back, was just like, hey, what happened? I shot the dude go in the corner. Okay, what happened next? Well, I shot that dude.
Just matter of fact.
You know, just matter of fact.
Professional about everything.
You know, consummate professional in every aspect of his game. And I know, you know, if everybody in the league and all the fans would have picked the top 5 this year, not a single person would have put Matt SOSSOMAN in there, and that's why it's awesome to see his name on this list with all these professionals.
And he's been there all year long.
Yeah.
So let's talk about another guy that's on this list right here, Alex Rodriguez, a name that another guy who plays a similar position as Matt SOSSOMAN, you know, bigger guys, and that's one of those things. It's like a lot of people look at the game of paintball and think, oh, if you're not, you know, 5'6" and 150 pounds, then you can't play at the top level of the game, which is completely ridiculous, as proved by Matt SOSSOMAN and Alex Rodriguez. Alex Rodriguez has an incredible success story. He lost a ton of weight when he was an overweight teenager, and he was approached by some of the guys from the Ironman, some of the legends, and they were like, hey, if you lost some weight, you could be an amazing paintball player. He took it upon himself to do that. He did it, and now he's a completely new, reformed man, and he has been a force in the league now for good 2 seasons. .82 on his G rating. Was able to get 108 kills and 131 points, and a force up the center. And you know, Ryan, that center, depending on the layout, can be a really big deal. But man, Alex Rodriguez has just a flair for the timing up in that center.
Yeah, that he's definitely a scary player to see up in the center. You know, it's one of those guys that if we yell the code and we know he's out there and he's lined up in the center, it's something we got to watch out for because you know this year the center hasn't been incredibly effective. You know, there've definitely been a couple of events that were some of the others. Yeah. You know, and it's always exciting, and I know for you guys especially, and for all of the viewers at home, like when you see a center, that's really exciting to watch. You know, you see someone run up there and do some rad moves and really punch up there because it's something you have to worry about. You never know which way he's looking, and the communication never really gets to both sides of the field. So a good, effective center player can really have an effect on the team. And if you look at the next player on the list, who's tied with me,
I was going to say this kind of goes right in there.
It's Oliver, who, as everybody remembers, World Cup, did some damage up there, and I know. you know, I fight with him all the time on where to go and what to do on up the center, and I'm like, you know, just back up a little bit, but you can't really fault him for the damage those guys do up at the center.
Yeah, so the next guy, Oliver Lang, actually tied with Alex Rodriguez on the G rating, .82. Oliver got more kills than Alex Rodriguez, 115 kills and 140 points. So the fact that you're one of Oliver's boys from back in the day, you played with him for many, many, many years now, and you guys are two of the most dynamic forces on Dynasty. So what sort of conversation does go between the two of you who play two different positions? But Oliver is kind of that, he is versatile, not as versatile as I would say that you are, but he plays a lot up in that center. That's his spot, just like Alex Rodriguez.
You know, it's funny because this year has been the year of Oliver and shooting a lot of paint. You know, as you guys saw that MAO event,
a lot of paint out there.
You know, had 13 pods on him.
And going up to the center 50.
I remember one of the plays. He's like, yeah. I'm like, Oliver, you going up the center? He's like, yep. I'm like, you gonna bring all 14 pods? He's like, I'm gonna shoot them all. You know, and I don't want to drop any because I don't want to give away what I'm going to do. You know, and a lot of times there's a center play, and sometimes it's Oliver just saying, well, I saw it. You know, and you really like a player like Oliver is we've all played with him.
We've all played with him.
You
yes.
can't be like, what'd you see? You know, it's just like, all right. You know, like you can't really say.
Yeah. All right, man. Roll the dice then. You know. It's worked in the past, so hopefully it's going to work again.
Yeah, and so many times because it's frustrating for me sometimes, and I'm like, dude, you got to stop going up there. Like if he has a bad point, but then he'll have 5 incredibly good points to his one bad point.
And he was last year's Top Gun Award winner. Yeah, so and honestly, when the stats were created, that was Oliver was one of the, I wouldn't say one of the reasons we did the stats were created, but before statistics, everything was subjective. There was no this guy did this and he shot this many guys, and here are the numbers. Here's how many seconds he played. Here's his WINFLUENCE. Here's his win rating. We didn't have any of that before. Before it was what did you see guys do. But it's Oliver's performances, in the past couple of years up that center and really reading the field with his field vision that's enabled him to do what he's been able to do. So talk about field vision. Moving on to the next guy, the 7th-ranked guy. I think this is a guy that has some of the best field vision in the game. Jason Edwards. Todd.
Yeah, Jason Edwards has really been the rock for Tampa Bay Damage now. For several years. The years that they won championships, when they went on that string of victories. Jason Edwards is just the most solid guy on Damage. You can talk to Joey Blute, you can talk to his teammates, and statistically you can look at some other guys, and the contributions that they make on that team, but everybody's scared of Jason Edwards. Honestly, you talk about Tampa Bay Damage and who's the most dangerous guy on their team is Jason Edwards, because he shoots people on the break. He always is alive. He can always pull out games when they're down bodies. He's got a great snapshot. He communicates really well. He's got every tool that a top-tier player in this league needs to have to be competitive, and he does every single one of those at a high level. So, I mean, you really can't say a bad thing about Jason Edwards, really at all. He does so much for his team. He's a great player. He's an elite-level player, and he really doesn't have any holes in his game.
And moving on to the guy who was actually tied with Jason Edwards at .80 on the G rating is another offensive phenom, has been for a long time, Colt Roberts from San Antonio X Factor. Now, Colt Roberts, Todd, you guys matched up with San Antonio X Factor many times in the 2014 season. You guys have played against Colt Roberts many, many times, for the long career that he's had. Another guy, I hope to God he doesn't retire because he's been playing at such a high level for so long. In fact, when San Antonio X Factor was formed, he was already had been a veteran at pro, not for a long time, but he was one of the older guys compared to them that came into their ranks. And, I mean, that guy is just a ridiculous force in the center and also on that D side of the field, versatile on the attack. So, Ryan, the fact that you guys, when you play him, I mean, how much of an offensive weapon is Colt Roberts?
Yeah, that he's definitely someone we have to watch out for, and playing especially alongside Archie, they have two great weapons on either side of the field, or even both on the same side of the field a lot. And we touched on X Factor in the last episode quite a bit on the fact that they're actually a lot better team than what their finishes really showed. And I think that obviously Colt Roberts had a huge effect on that, and to be able to
and has for a long time.
Yeah, and has for a long time, and to be able to be up on this list as a front guy is kind of tough. because we talked about it, we touched with Jason
with the G rating.
Yeah,
because
with the G
rating is that, look, the G rating is how many kills you get per point. So if you can come close to 1 kill per point, I mean, obviously with Archie sitting at 1.03, that's the high water mark, and he's the only guy past 1. The next guy even close is 0.88. So the fact that if you're on this list, you are doing a really good job out there for your team. You know, so, and with Colt, I love watching Colt play. He's always looking for that move. His timing is impeccable. And he's very, very, very aggressive, but we constantly see him on these lists year after year after year since we've been doing these stats. So it's good to see him here in the top 10 again.
You want to beat X Factor? Number 1 on your list should be shoot Colt Roberts on the break. He's a front guy. He's going to give you an opportunity to shoot him on the break. Number 1 game plan against X Factor is shoot Colt Roberts on the break. Number 2 is isolate Archie Montemayor and don't let him get his kills on the break, and then try and kill him as soon as possible.
Yeah, but he's not running that far compared to Colt Roberts.
That's why you have to kill Colt Roberts first. Kill Colt Roberts, isolate Archie Montemayor, and then try and pinch him out.
Yeah, so I mean, so hats off to Colt. Now, another offensive weapon that we didn't get to see too much on the main webcast field this year for the PSP in the Champions Division was Damian Ryan. You know, Damian Ryan really came to predominance past couple seasons as the main attacker for Los Angeles Infamous, really asserting himself as the main weapon on that team. But though they did win the first event in the Champions Division, you know, that was long ago in the paintball world. And we do give them their credit for that win, and they did beat you guys. And Damian did have a last-second hang, actually, in order to tie it up, to maintain, you know, to be alive when all the craziness was going on in that point. If you haven't seen that game, you have to go watch the Los Angeles Infamous San Diego Dynasty Challengers Division final matchup. But Damian Ryan clocks in 8th overall, 0.78. Again, no real surprise to see him up on this list.
No, Damian Ryan is a guy, you know,
you coached him.
Had he been in, you know, the Champions Division all year, he would have been one of those guys in the top 5. I mean, he is just an unbelievable player. He definitely got better than he did the year before, just didn't have a chance to showcase his talent on the pro field all throughout the season. But, I mean, he gets better and better, you know, as long as his team stays solid and gets better, which they have been. I fully expect to see Damian Ryan back at the top of that list. At the end of 2013 season, he was a 200-kill guy. Not many guys reached that mark. And, you know, when we see him back full-time on the Pro Champions field, I fully expect to see him back up in the upper echelon of these players.
So Ryan tied at 9th overall is both Zach Wake and Paul Everett. A little bit of a different story for these two teams. Paul Everett played on Tampa Bay Damage, didn't get a lot of spins this year, but in limited spins was actually able to, you know, get up on this list. So they used him in reserve, but you know, he got a little bit more playing time at the World Cup. They actually put him out for some really crucial points, and that just kind of speaks to the faith they had in him. And then Zach Wake was the hero of both Infamous's final match in the very first event where they won the Champions Division, and then also he was the last guy, the 5th guy to go out for the one-on-one to win the game against you guys. So kind of a crazy year for Zach Wake after having a very, you know, topsy-turvy rise back up to the top. You know, Zach Wake was one of those guys that was hard to coach, hard to work with, had a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, but, you know, really did a lot of mental work to defeat those demons, and really kind of became the opposite of that this year. And it ended up paying dividends, and he had to fight through a hamstring injury at the end of last season too. So, you know, Everett, you know, spending a lot of time away from the game, coming back, getting reps, doing well in those reps, and then Zach Wake with his whole dramatic, you know, rise back to the top again. Really kind of two similar stories with two different situations.
Yeah, you know, Zach Wake, I've played with him. He's been on Dynasty before. Todd, you coached him, and he's a great player. He's a workhorse. He's that front killer. You know, that's the guy you throw into the front. You know, and so oftentimes you're going to know where he's going to go and what he's going to do, and if you can contain him. Obviously, we spoke about Damian Ryan, who's a tremendous player because he's the guy who's kind of like the X factor on their team because he can play into those spots. But Zach Wake is being the tip of the spear. And being able to finish up on this top, getting up front, and that's paying dividends. And then for Paul Everett, you know, it just shows like the little bit of the confidence that they had in those small amount of matches that he did get to play. It shows, you know, the 6th man is out there ready to shine. So, you know, with only 26 points played, getting 20 kills in there with a .77, that means that, you know, given the opportunity, he would have definitely been able to shine a little bit more out there, being able to play. But it's good to have that kind of bench. You know, you have a strong system where you have, guys that are also finishing in the top 10 on your squad, and the team's overall is places second place, you have guys that, when called upon, are going to be able to shine.
Yeah.
Hey.
Should we head into the 10th guys?
Yes, let's talk about them.
So the 10th guys overall here, and kind of closing out this list for the top killers for overall 2014 season in the PSP. Fabrice Colombo from Moscow Red Legion, another just like Franck Chambon who finished second in the G rating, but Colombo got a lot more spins. You know, he had 97 points played in this season, 74 kills for him, finishing 10th overall with a .76 G rating. And then also our boy Ryan Greenspan, also tying him up, .76. A lot more points played though for you, Ryan. 129 points, 98 kills, almost, you know, got to that triple digits. Almost got to the triple digits. You know, so, you know, Ryan, I mean, how did you feel about your season since we got you here? So us talking about you, you know, you'd have you talk about you.
I'd like it better if you guys talked about me now. Yeah, it was tough, a little bit tougher, you know, because we had we got relegated. You know, that was an issue.
And you had a knee injury.
I had a knee injury putting me out of. I got to play one match in Riverside, and Riverside is notoriously, at this point in our history, a very difficult event for us as a team for whatever reason it is. I don't know. We don't seem to do well, and that was solidified in this event. But you know, I felt good going through those first 3 events. You know, the team's doing well, and I don't know. I mean, I'm just kind of playing for my guys. The scores and those things, it's a huge bonus, and I like to talk about it with you especially, you know, jokingly and everything. But you know, I just want to make sure that everybody knows that, you know, this is all, you know, whatever I can do out there is the best interest of the team involved, you know.
Well, I think that's interesting as a coach, Todd, and we talked a lot about, when we talk about you, Ryan, you know, is that, you know, Ryan, you kind of get raw deals sometimes, I feel, because, you know, I mean, you're that guy that Rusty and the other guys on the team, they know that they can put you in any spot. So when you kind of, you know, it is when you're going through the field, like, all right, this guy's going to play Snake 1, this guy's playing D1. All right, we're going to have, you know, so if there's a back center, you know, someone's going to play the back center. But then those other spots where you're like, who's going to play that back corner bunker that's really hard to make, or that ride or die spot that we have to send somebody to, but it's kind of hit or miss. You get those spots.
Yeah.
You know, which I'd love to see you. I'd love to see you up in the 1 a little bit more.
Yeah, you know, and well, the funny thing is, in practice all season, I'd play the number 1 with Blake usually. You know, Blake and I would swap off points. I'd play over there, and then I kind of just jump around to other little spots when guys weren't ready. And I definitely feel like I did a lot of damage in practices, and then the small events, the events that I got a little bit of time up in front on the Dorito side is where I wanted to play. But again, you know, like, that's neither here nor there, because at the end, wherever the team needs me the most, and whatever hole that needs to be plugged, and that's what we kind of touched about with Archie, is, you know, he and I have similar styles of play. If Ryan Brand went up to Archie and said, hey, we really need you in that Dorito corner, or hey, we really need you to block this zone off, I know Archie will do that. Yeah. And that's at the end of the day what's going to help the team the most. You know, maybe if I get a couple more kills in my stats, I was bumped up to the 5th place or the 6th place, great. Would the team do any better? I don't know, because we need some of those anchors in some of those spots. Like Yosh, for instance, Yosh played almost every point in MAO when Glenn had to leave. Yosh just had to shoot his gun for 3 straight days. Just had to keep shooting in a lane. But he didn't complain. He didn't matter. And if you look at our overall team stats, I think Yosh is about 50% as far as G rating.
Well, yeah, and Yosh is also one of your top 5 guys.
Yeah, and he's one of our top 5 guys, and, you know, because he did the job that the team needed him to do.
Yeah.
You know, and I watched it, and I don't know if you guys remember in World Cup, like, we sent him up as the number 1 a couple times. He was up there in those Doritos, and he told the whole team going into the last event, he's like, you know what? I need to tell myself that I need to be more aggressive, and I need to do more on the field for everybody. You know, so it's, you know, I guess kind of getting off topic a little bit, but you know, being the tip of the spear is one thing, but being able to play for your team is a whole other thing.
Well, the tip of the spear may make the entry point, but the big cuts are made by the rest of the spear, and you're one of those guys. You know, just like Archie. You know, the 2s are the hardest spot in the game. It's the most difficult spot to play, and everybody knows that. So hats off to you and the rest of the guys that made to the top 10. A couple other notables here before we sign off. Chabougere was right behind both you and Colombo with a .75. Alexander Burnikov, no surprise there, from Art Chaos, the now defunct Art Chaos. We don't know who he's going to be playing for in 2015. We'll keep you updated on that. He had a .74. Kevin Cali Rudolph for Infamous, also .74. And then this is kind of interesting to note. Sean Rill from Baltimore Revo. He had 24 kills and 33 points that he played just at World Cup alone, up in that center, killing it. So I think Sean Rill is one of those guys, could have a Rookie of the Year performance.
Fantasy team
Yeah,
next
we'll see.
year.
Yeah, so look out for Sean Rill, man. I mean, he played one event in the Champions Division, and he ended up getting, have us talk about him right here because of such an amazing performance that he had. And also, we can't forget about, yes, the G rating is kind of, the most important rating when it comes, like, how many guys are you killing per point? We got to know that, right? But as far as, like, top killers are concerned, guys that didn't make it into the top 10 or into the notables that we have to talk about. Justin Rabakov, though he did not make it into the top 10 in the G rating, he had the most kills of anybody this year. 3 ahead of Marcelo Margotto, 156 kills, Todd, overall for Justin Rabakov.
156 kills is a lot of kills. I tell you what, looking at this top group of players right here, 1 through 5, definitely 6 through 10, there's a ton of kills for all these players for their respective teams. But this is another testament to the league. I know I'll come back to this again, but the way that this league played out this year, how close all these games were, how the level of talent has risen, how the level of competition has risen. It's crazy to see the top killer in the league got 156 kills when last year we had a bunch of guys hit that 200 mark. 150, 156. That is a ton of kills for this league this year. And Justin Rabakov, number 1, 156. Marcelo Margotto, number 2, at 153.
Yeah, Archie Montemayor right behind him at 140, third overall in the total kills. Jason Edwards, 139. Trevor Reeser didn't make the top 10 like your boy Matt Sossman did from Omaha Vicious, but Trevor Reeser, 5th overall on the kill count list, with 135 kills.
Yeah, he was huge for our team this year. He's not one of those guys that, may not have played or may not have finished in the top in G rating, but he played almost every point. This was a guy that I could count on. He's a versatile player that can play the 3, the 2, and the 1, understand what's going on. I think there's a very bright future for Trevor Reeser if the right team can pick him up and get him these spins, because he really blossomed as a player this year. He really figured out who he is as a paintball player and really understands the game at a higher level now. And he's at that point where he's only going to reach higher and higher levels as he gets to play more, gets more experience, and understands. And the way that he was this year with 135 kills, he's only going to get better. I guarantee it.
Yeah, I hope to God that a big team picks him up, because I really think that given the amount of spins in the right franchise, that he could continue to shine. Talk about shining. Fedorov, 6th overall, 126 kills. Justin Cornell on the series champs Edmonton Impact, 122. Oliver Lang, 115. Greg Sewers, 113 kills.
Yep, earned that paycheck.
Yeah, so Houston Heat, still on Houston Heat too, even after all the cuts that happened, but that's no big surprise there. Greg Sewers. Yeah, Greg Sewers, one of the best Eastside players out there right now, and another guy that's really hungry to get better, similar to Marcelo Margotto. Jacob Edwards, Jason Edwards' younger brother.
We watched it happen.
Yeah,
we watched it happen.
Jacob Edwards is a force out there, 113 kills for him. Zach Yakimek, 110, and then Max Traylor also tying it up with Zach Yakimek at 110. So those are your top killers for the 2014 season in the PSP. Thank you guys again for tuning in to us all season long. We very much thank you for your continued support. And man, the 2015 season is going to be crazy. We're going to keep you guys with all the updates as we find out about them on Paintball Access. We're going to do a lot more podcasts as well too, giving you those behind-the-scene looks at the players and their lives. It's going to be a crazy season. So Ryan, thank you for sitting in with us, man. So also, you're one of the, as far as like lifestyles are concerned, you live that pro paintball lifestyle. You're out there traveling the world, playing in multiple continents. Where can people continue to, see your adventures?
Well, I actually started a little video series on my YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/Ryan Dynasty. I'm trying to link in a little bit of travel into some of the paintball. A lot of the videos you're going to be able to get some of the tips and little tricks, like pro tips and things like that. I have my little series going. But I'm trying to make it a little more fun so you can see what's outside of paintball. So when you go to the Riverside event, you might be able to see what other fun stuff you can do around in the town. The West Coast Open, that is. And same thing with all the European events. Oliver and I usually make a funny little video to go along with it. So that's on my YouTube channel. Other than that, if you just want to follow my adventures daily, Instagram is the way to go. That's the new hotness, if you haven't heard of it. It's just at Ryan Greenspan. I'm a pretty easy guy to find.
Nice. All right, well, hey, man, we wish you the best of luck in 2015. We'll keep you, all you guys updated on what goes on. Again, with all the off-season craziness, it's been a little interesting already, just a couple weeks out from World Cup. Again, thank you very much to our sponsors, GI Sports, Planet Eclipse, Die Precision, and Key Action Sports as well. Those are the big companies supporting the game. So, man, we'll see you guys next episode.
In 2006, Raza Design set out to create a new standard for custom paintball jerseys. No longer were a player's options limited to just blue, red, or yellow. Raza redefined art in paintball. Raza brought people a freedom of expression, options, and personality. Since 2008, Raza Design has been producing the most professionally created, performance-minded, design-enhanced, art-forward jerseys to play in. Whether you are a weekend warrior or a committed professional, everyone is welcome to enjoy our products.
It's the weekend before the final event of the year, and we have 60 cases of paint. Last year at this time, we only had 20, and we didn't even make the cut for finals. But this year, with the money we raised through paintballproshop.us, that's not a problem. Now we have money for practice and events. It's free. paintballproshop.us.
There are massive opportunities, both for the sport of paintball and for your business, if we are successful in taking our sport to another level. Unite with Paintball Access in our quest to elevate paintball and broadcast it to the world. There are advertising packages available for any size business. Join us. Advertise with PBA and help us change the sport for the better, forever.